Good morning, everybody. This is Dan Spots on behalf of the Dalles Area Chamber of Commerce. Today is Thursday, August 20th. Our guest, Debbie Jones from YouthThink. And I'm going to turn it over to Debbie in just a little bit, but let's go ahead and get some organizational updates and see what's going on around the area. I'm going to start with Mr. Lee Weinstein in my upper left-hand corner, and then I'll turn it over to Roger.
Good
Lee.
morning, Lee Weinstein, unincorporated Wasco County, on the board of Q Life and OPB. And I just want to put a big shout out to all the firefighters that have worked on Grasshopper. It continues. It's been devastating. And I think the big question going forward is how are we going to be sustainable in wildfires, which are going to be with us permanently now. This has been an awful year, and it's going to just get worse.
Unfortunately, yes, we summers like this used to be the exception. Now they seem to be the rule.
Yeah, it's wildfires. It's what fall, winter, spring, summer, wildfire season.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
new season.
yeah. Hmm. Roger, and then we'll go to Trish.
Yeah, Wasco County, and yesterday we passed the first reading of an ordinance that would create an endowment fund for the county, starting with $15 million and putting in all the stuff we get from Google and the other uh, tax abated people once they've reached their past. So the idea is in 15 years, it will mature as like a oh, geez, I'm losing my new nouns again. Annuity, and they'll be able to draw between $2.5 and $4 million each year out of it in perpetuity. This is going to give them a uh, income stream that's not affected by anything else that's unusual to the county alone. Nobody else will have that. Part two is on the next meeting in early September.
And Roger, you'll be talking some more about that next week when you're the
Oh, that's
guest
right. Yeah.
chair, and maybe talking about policies on how they're going to be investing that money when it comes in.
Yes, there's quite a bit of information on that. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Fascinating. All right. I know Phil was following that one very, very closely, Commissioner Brady. Thank you. Thank you, Roger. And thank you again for taking on that role. That's a big lift. Trish, and then we'll go to Bill Lennox.
Good morning. I'm Trish Neal. I've been with Legal Shield for almost 19 years. We're a 54-year-old company, and August is Make a Will Month. And if you do not have a will, it is very important. It's your last love letter to your family, and it's a way of maybe sharing the wealth with nonprofits. I put my contact information in the chat. You can contact me if you would like to have a free will questionnaire to help you get started. Also, the new Dalles Music Association, I'm sorry, I can't read that small print. But anyway, I've put in a flyer for their performance on the 23rd. And then tonight we're doing will and estate planning. And you can contact me for the link for that. It's a free webinar. And thank you.
Thank you for putting that information in the chat also. The Dell's above ground, I think. Yeah, good, good. Bill, and then we will go to Corliss.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Bill Lennox with, at this point, with North Central Public Health, representing Wasco County, and also with the St. Paul's Historic Chapel. Since Julie's not here, which is unfortunate, she usually gives an update on what's going on with the St. Paul's Chapel. We're continuing to try to improve that little chapel and attract ways that we can make it sustainable. And I think that's really going to be a positive piece for the community once people get to know about it even more than they do now. So that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Keep up the good work on that. Corliss, and then we'll go to Heatherland. Corliss?
Good morning, everyone. This is Corliss, and I'm part of the library and the senior center and Habitat for Humanity. But upcoming at the library this Saturday is Jane Kirkpatrick, an author. She'll be coming to speak at 3 o'clock. So see you all there.
Thank you, Corliss. And any detail Any detail is put in the chat as well. Thank you. Good to know. And Heather.
Good morning, Heather Land, Communication Specialist at Wasco Electric, and I do not have any updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Let's go to Adele. Adele on an iPad there, if you're with us. And if not, let's go to Kristen and we can circle back.
Good morning, Kristen Wilkins. I'm the tourism director for Explore the Dalles. We do have a sunny trail going on right now where you can go through. It's helping to support some small businesses and help to drive some tourism to our area. And that's all I've got this morning.
Thank you, Kristen, and thank you for covering for me next week. You'll be hosting this.
Yes, absolutely. Happy to help.
Thank you, Kristen. Then we'll go to Lily.
Hi, good morning. This is Lily Garcia. I'm from Northern Wasco County PUD, and I'm just joined to really listen to Debbie and speak about YouthThink and see how we can help and impact our community together.
Thank you for joining us, Lily. And let's check in with Adele one more time. And if not, I'm going to, let's see, Roger, you have your hand raised, sir.
Yeah, I just want to let people know that Julie is on her way to Cove for a meeting of the Council of the Episcopal Diocese of Eastern Oregon.
Okay. Thank you for the update on that one. All right, our guest this morning, Debbie Jones with YouthThink, Wasco County Prevention Coordinator. And this is going to be kind of a back and forth, give and take. Debbie will be asking us questions as well as providing updates. So with that preface, and let's go ahead and get started.
Okay,
Debbie?
thank you very much. You know, you were talking about fire. It was, I think when I was had the chance to share information a year ago, it was in June, and it was the Thursday. Let's see, the fire happened on Wednesday in the Rowena fire, and I was celebrating with you all at 7 a.m. to let you know that my house survived. So yes, this smoky air and what those amazing firefighters. I have some wonderful little trinkets that they left for us that will forever be part of my home. So I agree, Lee, 100%. What you think? Many of you maybe have heard of YouthThink. A little bit more about myself. Lifelong resident of the Dalles. Grew up here. My mom and dad were high school sweethearts, and they're still sweethearts in their 90 and 91s. And so our family, my grandpa came here to help with Bonneville and then the Dalles Dam. And so I get to hear stories about walking across the Columbia when it was frozen and all those fun things. But I do have, when I go in and talk to young people and I tell them, you know, I grew up in the Dalles, and they look at me and it's like, why did you come back? And it's like, why not? So that's been one of kind of my passions is what this community is a great community, but maybe taking a different lens and looking at, is there some things that we could do better? So in my work as a prevention specialist, we really incorporate prevention science. And I want to give you kind of a real short tutorial so you kind of know what our YouthThink organization thinks about when we're trying to help raise awareness, do education for some of the things that happen with our young people. So I do want to share a little of this prevention science, but I really would appreciate your feedback as I ask some of the questions. And my guess is that every single one of you would raise your hand when I ask the question, do you have a young person in your life that you really care about? Whether it's one of your own children, grandchildren, someone that you know from your church, someone you follow maybe in athletics. My guess is that every single one of you, and especially as I hear about your volunteer efforts, community efforts that you do, that you would be able to have some faces in your mind about some of those young people. So I'm going to ask you to do that through this lens this morning. And I'm going to share a little PowerPoint just to keep me on track. And can you see that okay?
Not yet, Debbie.
Nope, because I did not share.
Down at the bottom of the screen, there should be that
Yeah,
share.
I gotta change my thing because it took everything away. My Zoom, there's my Zoom. Okay, I'm gonna come back to you guys and make sure I'm sharing the right thing. Come on.
There we go.
All right.
It's coming in. All right, we've got it. You think.
Okay, thank you, Dan. So my question is, what do youth need to feel supported in our community? So I want you to kind of have that be that kind of foundation that we're going to build on this morning. Now it's not letting me click. So in prevention science, we use a term called community norms, which my guess is many of you are familiar with that. And we have a little definition here. Community norms are the shared beliefs and expectations about what is considered normal, acceptable, or valued in the community. These messages help send they're not always really like out in front, but it's that underneath. What do our members within our community, especially our young people, what should they expect from the people around them? There are positive ones, and give you a kind of example. You know, most young people don't use substances. You can read through those. I don't need to read for you, but you could get an idea of what some community norms may be. When a community models and celebrates healthy choices, those choices can become the norm. That's what people would associate. Hey, what's it like to live in the Dalles? Hopefully they would say some of these things. I don't know. I'm not going to put words in your mouth. Again, there are negative ones, and science backs these up. You know, what do people think, especially our young people, because what adults think and what young people think are very different. And that's a lot of times where you get that saying, do as I say, not as I do. But our young people, no matter what the age, are always watching, and they're picking up cues all the time as far as, you know, what is the norm to fit into this group, into this community. And you watch that all the time, whether we realize it or not. We might just think, oh, it happens within the homes. Yes, our parents are our first teachers. It also happens in our schools and our churches, out when they're at a store, out when they're riding their bikes. What are those cues that our young people pick up? So my question to all of you, real quick, and I'm going to stop the share for a second. What do you think within our community? And this will be recorded, so feel free. But this is not a judgment. This is just for us to kind of get a handle. What would you think are some of the community norms, positive and negative, that you see in our community? Anyone?
I'll start. I'm not bashful. There's been a change in the norms in the whole state in terms of legalizing marijuana for recreational use. And we have stores in the Dalles. So that is a major change that's happened not that long ago.
Okay. Thanks, Roger. That could kind of be a community norm that kind of normalizes the use of these products. Okay. Anything else? What do you think, Lee?
Just thinking about all the music that's happening in the Dalles now, and music seems to be more integral on a whole host of levels, and that's a positive.
Okay. Do you think that is as incorporated with young people, or is that more the adult population, or both?
I think it is both. There are a lot of things that are, a lot of people with hair like mine are showing up to.
Right.
But it'd be great to have more young people there and excited.
Okay.
This is Bill. When I start to look around, I see a lot of little communities are developing places for kids like skate parks, like Mosier just built one, and also the Dalles. And so there's a little bit more emphasis on trying to bring ways that kids can be more active in healthy ways. So that's good.
Okay.
I think just looking back on raising our two kids, the network of high school activities and softball, sports, drama, music, all of those things are not only things for kids to be doing, students to be doing, but also ways for parents to keep track of what those students are doing and kids are doing when you don't know where your daughter is at 10 o'clock, you can call somebody and find out pretty fast.
Okay. Anyone else?
Uh,
Lily.
I do have one. In my experience, I do have a 16-year-old daughter, Layla, and I think that one of the things that I'm seeing more and more due to social media and digital media is that the parents are maybe perhaps not as involved physically or just present with their kids because everything is just consumption, 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 and these kids are on social media all the time, and they have this perspective of what they feel like life is because of what they see. But I think that as parents, we need to stay consistent. I know my parents were very involved with me and maybe a little too strict and overbearing, but at the same time, I felt like that was the guide for my route of life and kind of that kept me on the straight line was that my parents were so involved. And so I would love to hopefully get more parents involved with youth and sports and then activities with kids and social media education type of information for them.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Specifically when you're thinking about youth.
I'm a
Well, it's a
little
national
concerned about speaking of Mosier, there's been some tagging going on, mailboxes being destroyed. I don't know who's doing it, but there are people, out doing some bad things. We had a mailbox out here robbed, and luckily there was some footage that they were able to capture the people, but they were young people, just out doing stuff when there aren't enough things to do, maybe.
So could I put that, Lee, as maybe potentially a community norm, being young people without a real sense of direction?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's another national trend, but it's a potentially dangerous one, AI and the ability, the how people form relationships with artificial intelligence, and it's not really there, but it becomes a hook. I could say,
Yeah, I think in that some of that national data, just to because this is one of the things that you think looks at quite a bit. We're just not substance use, and I'll get into that kind of in another slide. But the percentage of young people in their middle school, high school that have had what they call a personal, well, I think they even said a romantic relationship with AI, a chat bot, was close to 50%. So, that's something, maybe we kind of see that on the horizon and want to do some things to make sure with the ideas that you guys have already suggested that uh, our young people, the community norm is that they do not have to turn to AI for positive relationships. So that could be something that we say, hey, these are some of those risk factors out there. Anything else that kind of comes to your mind, or if you were to work with the chamber and you said, hey, if you really want to promote this community, this would be the picture on the postcard.
I'm going to throw it out there. A new high school.
Okay.
Amen.
So instead of necessarily that, so right now is a community norm that people might think we don't care about our youth because we don't have a new high school?
I think that's the perception. And that hurts the community in many, many ways. If you're looking at recruiting companies, the education system, healthcare, the fact we have a college here is very helpful. The fact that we have an old high school and other buildings suggests that we are not investing in critical infrastructure, human infrastructure.
And there's another aspect, and that is not directly for this, but childcare has been a real problem in recruiting people.
Yep. Thank you, Roger.
Okay. Anything else? Does that kind of give us a good kind of idea?
Positive library. We have a fantastic library. Let's get that out there.
Absolutely.
I would have to agree with Dan that library is awesome, and also Lee.
Okay, so I'll have to step in here for a minute and remind everybody that the reason why we don't have a high school is because we can't seem to pass anything. And the reason why we have a great library is because a library district was formed many years ago, and it has a reliable funding source and has made it possible for that library to grow and to be so important in our community. If we could only all collectively see the correlation of how those things work together, then we could really move forward. And I think another note, without going into it too far, we sometimes think that our kids are oblivious to what's going on, and they obviously pick up totally. And when they feel that there's not enough support for their education in the community, it just reflects on so many other kinds of behaviors and their sense of their own well-being. So anyway, yeah, it's unfortunate for sure.
Thank you, Bill. To give you some insight, so when we did the last time the school bond was on the ballot, we also at that same time had an outside consultant come in and do a big youth assessment with us, and they did a lot of focus groups with middle school and high school. We had probably close to 200 youth that were part of these focus groups, and it was just after the bond had gone down. And it was interesting because he talked to the kids themselves, and the majority of the kids did not see that exact topic as showing that the community saying that they didn't care about them, because they shared back with us that they understood the financial burden that it would put on their families. They wanted a new school, but they also understood that it came down to, hey, can we do other things within our family because of that cost? So it was really interesting that perspective that they had. They did not take it as the adults not caring for them, but overwhelmingly, so you can see, was it more intuitive, like you were saying, Bill? They did overwhelmingly feel like the adults in the Dalles did not value young people. So that was overwhelmingly, but at the same time, they could kind of see, hey, if it comes down to my mom and dad, and I think they also had kind of the perception of what they hear and how they hear people talk is that for some reason Google should be just dropping down and $100 million and paying for the school, and it's like we need to hold off on that. So it was interesting, that take. But our young people, I think I've shared this, some of you may have seen in past times when I've had a chance to present. We did, and this was a few years back, a survey, kind of live survey that we did with middle school kids. And we had the actual results of how they had answered questions in the student health survey that asks about substance use. And it was, what's the perception of the number of their friends, their peers that use alcohol or cannabis on a regular basis? And overwhelmingly, they always thought there was a lot more use, that everybody's doing it, as opposed to the actual young people that said they were. And this was not scientific because I didn't have any data, but we asked the same question, and young people voted by standing up. We had a slideshow up. And I asked the question, what percentage of adults do you think get completely wasted or high? And we kind of gave them more of a definition. It wasn't like, hey, having a beer or a smoke, but where it's like they would not be able to probably function in their normal way. Do you think that happens to every weekend? And they overwhelmingly thought it was close to 70% of the adults in our community. And that really kind of shocked me. So for our young people, a community norm was that the adults in our community are using substances at a very high rate. I asked them, because I knew that wasn't true. I don't think we'd be able to function. I said, why do you think that? And again, these are middle schoolers, so, 12, 13-year-olds. And they said, well, we know that's how our parents deal with stress. And when we drive through town, and again, this was a little while back, Clock Tower was still open. They remarked about the new little restaurants and brew pubs that had popped up where you saw adults outside. And they jumped to the conclusion that everybody that they saw, especially if they saw teachers or role models, were drinking alcohol. And so we had a chance to kind of say, okay, so that's a community norm that you feel, but it's really based on no facts. And we tried to let them, kind of understand, but we needed to know where they were coming from. Why did they think that? And we'd never really asked those questions. So again, our young people have community norms. I think it's not uncommon for a young person to say, in whatever small town that they grow up in, that I want to get out of here as soon as I can. And that's been historical in our community when the city has done vision drafts and surveys. But I think that's pretty typical for most small towns. And then when they get a little bit older, but it's just, I've thought a lot about, what would happen? What kind of social media frenzy would I start off on the unedited and the Dalles happenings and all of that if I were to ask the question, is your youth safe in our community? And it'd be interesting to hear what, how people would say, but we haven't decided if we're brave enough to take that one on. But I think it's an important question, and is what is safe? Is that, physical? You ask our young people and they hear about the skate park and they have a community norm that is not a safe place for them to be. And that might be completely a wrong perception, because there might be a lot of adults who have started saying, hey, I'm going to come with my kids all the time. But again, that's the perception that's out there. So what are some of the community, we have to look at community norms. What are they, and are they helpful, or are they things that they could change? I'm going to come back here to our next slide here and tell you a little bit again about the science of risk and protective factors. And this is one of the
Coming in.
Yeah, let me, I think I'm sharing, but I got to get in the slide presentation mode. Okay. Well, I'm not in the right screen. Hang on, sorry about this, you guys.
No, we can see it fine though.
Okay. So we've got risk and protective factors, and that's actually, as far as prevention, this is the science that we stand on. This is everything that we do falls under this foundation. And it was actually two fellas from the University of Washington, Hawkins and Catalano, who came up with this model. And it's helpful because it when we utilize it, it gives us a chance to maybe stop problems before they start. And that's really what our work within YouthThink is, that we want to take a look at all of these things. I don't really even like the word prevention. I'd rather see the word that we are promoting risk factors and promoting protective factors and decreasing risk factors, and eventually will prevent some of these. But sometimes prevention, it can be used in so many different ways. You have to ask, what are you trying to prevent? So, on there, let me get up here. So within, these would be some of the common risk factors. Family conflict or instability, easy access to substances. I think, Roger, you had brought that up, that with the legalization of retail cannabis, it's more of a risk. It can be found there. We now have, I think, 5 stores in our area. Lack of positive adult support. I think that was brought up also. Feeling disconnected from school or community. We brought that up. Youth who have fewer supports and resources that help them cope with challenges and make healthy choices. So understanding what are our common risk factors that are in our community, and sometimes those also fall within our community norms. So the ones on that opposite side, we know that there can be those risks, but what are some of the protective factors that can help overcome that? And these are all backed by science, years of research, strong relationships with caring adults, opportunities to succeed and contribute. I believe, again, that was something you guys mentioned, activities for young people to be involved in, whether it's drama, sports, music. I like that it was mentioned, like the music scene in the Dalles. That might be something that we look at and see, hey, is that something that our young people feel like, hey, I'm included in that also. I know our friend Patty Blagg, who does the community concerts, she makes a very big effort to make sure within the Gorge area, when she brings in an act, that they also do some kind of community outreach with the school. So you see some of those, again, youth that have more of these protective factors helps them build resilience, make healthy choices, more apt to ask for help because they trust the adults in their life and they learn how to successfully navigate those challenges. So I'm going to go off here again. So,
Roger.
Yep,
ahead.
Roger, go ahead.
Thank you. I just had a thought that a lot of it has to do with how successful they are in school. People at the lower end of the grading spectrum don't have the opportunities, and because they get all this negative feedback, don't have the desire to take part in sports or in like the college classes that you can take in high school, that sort of thing. So it's kind of stratified by socioeconomic status, I would say.
I think that you could definitely make that. I do think our school district, one of the things that there's no longer participation fees to play in sports like there used to be. So I think there's been some efforts in that. But if the community norm is that to be successful on a team, you have to be in a club sport, then that definitely, could be something. So it might be, what is that a community norm? Do coaches have that where, hey, to make my team or for you to even feel like you have a chance, you better be putting out the bucks to attend these camps, all of that. So that could turn into understanding how risk and protective factors fall together. So I think that's a good example.
Yeah, barriers. We don't need any barriers. We could try to find those and take them out. That's a good point about the school.
Well,
So go ahead. Did someone
we
else?
talked about, of course, sports and athletics, but thinking of terms of robotics and technology and drama, something near and dear to my heart. I was in a competitive thespian group back in high school. We'd go all over the Northwest competing in things. And I don't know if that type of thing is still taking place, but like Gorge Technology Alliance, getting our technology companies involved with youth to an even greater extent. Um, Things of that nature for the kids who are not sports inclined, as I was.
So those could definitely be some protective factors. And I know the college, OSU Extension, the library, the STEM programs that
Right.
Lee, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, work, internships, volunteerism. Some of my favorite young people I've seen more recently have been at Shannon's Ice Cream. Young people working and getting job experience and absolutely delightful. But learning how to work.
Yeah.
We have an inside connection there. They're Shannon and John play tennis, and so we have, I think, 3 or 4 of their helpers are on our boys and girls tennis team.
Awesome.
So that's a good. But they are, yeah, maybe, could that be seen as a community norm that our young people have opportunities to be mentored, job experience, interns, when they start to get an inkling for maybe a career choice, does our business community also say, hey, I'd love to have an intern, and even if it's just for a month, so we could show them. Young people are starving for that. I think when we made Dan and Bill, I know you guys were here when I made the presentation last year of the retail environment that youth experienced. And they overwhelmingly did not feel welcomed downtown. They felt like things weren't for them. They felt, and I probably said it wasn't overwhelming there. There were quite a few places that they said the people were great, but there were places that they definitely felt that the adults were watching them, expecting them. They just looked at them and thought, okay, these kids fall into that category of young people without a sense of direction. And so when we talk, about most of our young people, what are we saying? Do those ones that do the tagging, do some of the destructive activities, are those the ones that we think represent our community? Or are we the community norm of the Dalles, Wasco County, that most of our youth, and I don't know if you've seen our billboards up above, it's not the Pancake House anymore. That's my aging me, but that say, and those are real statistics for our community. The vast majority, we don't have any of our grade levels that we survey over 20% that use substances, whether it's alcohol, cannabis, vaping. We actually, believe it or not, have more young people that are involved in gambling activities than we do with substances. So, and that's another thing that again, you think we try to be on the cusp of, okay, what are the trends? I bet none of you can sit down and watch TV without a DraftKings commercial coming on or seeing some type of way. And we met with young people and we talked to them about their online. I think Lily, you had mentioned this, the social media, the gaming. The majority of games that they play have gambling elements in it. I don't know if you've noticed at Fred Meyer's that they have some of these little claw machines now. We used to really, maybe was just the one in the breezeway type area. Now there's a little section by where you can get the lottery tickets, the water change. Claw machines, if you've been down to the coast, there's a store that has like 113 claw machines. those are a form of gambling. So again, that's a way we're not what you think. We want to make sure that we're educating, raising awareness. We're not the no fun police. I think that's what sometimes people think we are. We just want to make sure that when we see trends, when we have data, we're using it responsibly and we're taking advantage of opportunities that the chamber is providing for us to say, hey, let's share a little bit more information. Let's help our adults who play in our one of the most important protective factors for a young person. A positive adult role model outside of the family. Definitely parents are the number one. Our young people watch what we do as parents, how we act, what are our values, what are our norms within our family setting. And then when they have that other responsible adult in their life, that is one of the biggest protective factors. I'll pick on Lily for a second because I know her and her wonderful daughter. And I've seen the conversations that she has with some of the other girls. And if I was one of those other girls' parents, I would be like, oh, I hope my young person gravitates to Lily because I know she shares the same values, same norms. And it's like my young person is going to be safe when she hangs out with Layla. Dan, you're thinking.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, what do you think the impact downtown might be in this conversation with the Federal Street Plaza development? That's going to be an activity, a brand new activity center downtown.
That's going to be a real way. So when they were first doing all of um, the kind of surveying, and we got a lot of high school kids to do those polls and say which design, and they were really excited about that. We had one young man who was like, okay, if they do this, I could really do some skateboarding. And we said, Evan, I don't think that's going to be allowed, so kind of broaden your mind. And then they thought, oh, they start thinking of ideas. The group that went to Japan, maybe there could be once a month you could have a night market or things. They were excited about that. And now it's interesting. I hear more of that. Oh, that's, I think this is an unfortunate community norm. That's just where, with the splash pad, the homeless are going to take their showers. It'll be something that eventually we won't be able to use because the homeless, and I'm just repeating things I've heard, the people that are unhoused will start to use that as their hangout, just like the skate park, just like City Park. So our young people, they were kind of got excited, but then it was like, okay, are they just hearing that from adults, or is that their real perception? And I think they're really doubtful that it would be something that would be for them. And I think that as long as I've been working with YouthThink, I've heard that a lot, that our young people, it's like, okay, we don't have our theater anymore. We don't have our bowling alley. The skate park's a little bit iffy. The library kind of fits for some people. Then there's nothing else for me to do. And one of the biggest issues that we find, and we really want to help help parents understand, no matter the age, and we do what we call our T to T boost camps, and we got to get our new schedule up for fall with where we help caring adults learn about emotional literacy, secure attachment, and how when a young person is bored, that's a great time to intersect and not say, well, then if you're bored, you can work, I'll give you things to do. But it could be an opportunity to say, hey, I'm so glad you recognize that feeling inside yourself. Let's figure out how you're going to deal with boredom. But we're not connecting as an adult and a young population where our young people are going, okay, I'm going to go to the internet. I'm going to just play my game. Those social relationships are starting to really dwindle. There's tons of research out there that you can see the depression and anxiety for young people. It wasn't COVID that maybe boosted it in a negative way. It was, you go back to about the 2009, 2008, when the iPhone came out, and you can see that big dot on the thing when it spikes up. So I want to be conscious of time. But a lot of the things that YouthThink is doing, and I'll get real raw and honest about this. On Fridays, I try to avoid going down Second Street. When there's a group that's I don't like to say they're protesting because that to me has a negative connotation, but they're out there gathering, and it seems like they have a certain message or thing that they're frustrated in there. So I have no problems with that, but I sit there and I look at, man, those 50 people, how do I get them? Because I can tell they really care about something. How could YouthThink engage them even more to say, hey, I want to figure out how I can, as a community, we can take on community norms that are positive for our young people. It's very obvious those people are very passionate, and that I admire, but I get kind of frustrated because it's like, oh, would you come to one of the More You Know Thursdays, where we are, this last one we learned about loneliness and social isolation. We have a grant, and we work with the Partnership to End Addiction experts out of their own organization, but many of them work for Johns Hopkins University, and they're providing most updated information. I've got to figure out, how do I get that information, get people to care about that a little bit more, maybe not, doesn't have to match this passion for getting out there and wanting to show up. How do we help people get that and passionate about the young people in our community and wanting to do something through this lens of community norms, looking at what protective factors can we increase, and being willing to look at, hey, these are some of the risk things, just like Roger said. Okay, cannabis, we know it's going to be in there. The state is not going to go back. Vaping, do we have to have alcohol? Most people know where to buy it. Do we have to have the stores? Many of the stores have a lot of their square footage signage about alcohol or cannabis or cigarettes. Would that be a community norm that we could say, hey, we're not saying people can't do these things, but do we need to have it splashed all over? Because research also says the more messages a young person sees with these products, the more normal it becomes. And I think you guys have brought that up a little bit. So that's a lot of what we're trying to do at YouthThink. I'd love to hear from you about, tell us how to get the word out better. Within your work, your social settings, where can we share this?
Well,
Because I
Debbie,
know we're missing the ball.
I guess that kind of, I've been wondering about, we're talking about different trends and influences and a lot of different points of discussion here. Where does this all go from your perspective? What happens next as you gather this information, you get this feedback and ask questions? What happens? Where do we go from here? Is there a forum? Is there an outreach process? In a year from now, what is going to be the
Okay, well,
result of these conversations?
I appreciate you asking that, and I'll try to answer it in a short way. We feel like the individuals that are right now on our board, that we need to do more opportunities like this. Go to Kiwanis. Maybe there's even church groups, the Pastors Association, different groups, and share the same information, get some feedback, do some open kind of survey type things, and gather this information so that we feel like we've done a good job getting information from the community. We don't want to throw our own perceptions on there. And then we're really looking at restructuring YouthThink's board because we know we don't have enough altos and sopranos in the choir. And so what we're looking at is changing kind of the structure and looking at having maybe an executive committee, a sector committee, we haven't figured out what we call it, that represents maybe 6 to 12 groups. So it might be, hey, I'm a parent, I am in education, I'm in healthcare, I'm a business community member, I am someone of a different culture, and where people on a regular basis, whether it's virtual, but a time and place, maybe it's every other month, maybe it's quarterly, can specifically look at these norms that we've identified, positive and negative, as well as the risk and protective factors that are out there, and then start to say through my lens, sitting in this group, my opinions, so we can get more of that in the public, more aware. And then it might be, hey, when we do have activities, when we do have a forum, we start to let people know that, hey, we're listening to you. So it could be, I know you think we have individuals on our board that are Hispanic, but are we really taking the time to learn from that community to say, hey, here's maybe the cultural norm that we have. What has been shared back to me is they don't talk necessarily about mental health issues. And so it might be, I've reached out to some community members from that, and they say, we'd like to, but we don't even know because culturally we're strong. You don't talk about that. That group could tell us, hey, this is how we'd like to know more about that. Instead of me saying, oh, I'm going to hold this town hall, we'll have an interpreter. Instead, it might be that community might say, hey, we do it through our churches. You need to get people within the community to share. We need to reach deeper into our bench, so to speak, and hear from people, and then give them the opportunities to participate, to have some passion. So those people like on the Friday night that are very passionate and want something in their opinion, what they feel, and I'm staying Switzerland and all of this, that will help their country be better. What if we could see that enthusiasm? What can I do to help my community be better, my school be better? I recently, just to throw myself under the bus, had a leadership training for all the people in the state for prevention, and they had us do one of those kind of, I don't know, it's like a personality quiz or something, and you go into these domains. And I took this a year ago, and the domain I was the highest in was challenging the process. And Roger will kind of giggle at that because he won't be surprised. But what I was lowest in was inspiring a vision. So a year later, I take it again. Challenging the process is still my highest, but inspiring a vision has gotten a little bit better. So I need, as you think, and I think as volunteers, business community people, with the library, with churches, how do we, as a community, and you think is willing to start the wave? We don't want to own it. We want to start the wave about how do we inspire a vision for our community that is beyond Google, water, bricks, and mortar. That's important, but that inside part where young people could say, hey, a community norm in the Dalles, maybe I still don't want to live here, but I grew up here and this was a town where young people felt supported. If we just could even have that, where our young people felt connected to schools, we would be, I think, in very sound ground, because the things that I wrote down, that I really like the most, that I think we can tackle. Parents are not as involved. We've got to figure out how we can help them do that as their busy lives, and young people without a sense of direction. So I think that's something that we intrinsically could figure out what's next, like you said, Dan. And so how do we break that down? What would be some ways that we could challenges to throw out to the community about, hey, when you see a young person in this grocery store, smile at them. We dare you to do that. What would happen? So we're actually planning on bringing out some experts that can help us learn how to do that better. So there'll be more follow-up. And I know I'm at the crunch time. I so appreciate your all feedback. We'll be compiling this information. If you have ways that you know of, hey, Debbie, we can help you get this information. We're all ears. That's something we need to do a much better job of. So thank you so much.
Debbie, who is on your board?
Currently, right now, Christy Jones. She is a parent. She used to be a hairstylist. I say used to be because her body said, no more, I can't have my arms up this more. Victor Velos, he works for Center for Living. Maria Pena, who's a community health worker. Antonio Marconi, who works with counseling young people, formerly has worked a lot with CASA, foster care. Tabitha Batten, who is again a mother, has young people and works in one of our businesses. Oh gosh, come on. Evelyn Anchetta, who's out there fighting the Grasshopper fire right now, a member of our Native American community. I'm going to be getting myself in real trouble. We also have Jamie Kerr, who works for School District 21, does the after school program. We're looking at restructuring that board because we want to make sure we're more effective. So we are looking for more people, and especially if you're someone that, hey, maybe it's someone like with the library, that's another youth serving organization. Maybe they would be like, hey, we could help rally more youth serving organizations. Definitely, we need to do much more outreach with our faith community. So that's we have some consultants that we work with. We've got some great good news that's been happening over the last few years with a program at the Dalles Middle School called What's Strong With You. Incredible data that's coming out as far as young people, the dip since we started that program, young people being involved with the juvenile justice program. So there's lots of things to shout about in a good way. So we want to change that narrative. There's a lot that's great about living in the Dalles.
And that's a good, hopeful point to wrap this up. A continuing conversation here, Debbie. Everyone, our guest this morning has been Debbie Jones with YouthThink, and some pretty provocative conversations here. Lee and I have been exchanging some chat messages here with some nice, innovative ideas, Lee. So I don't want to drop this. I think that's the key here. Okay, how do we keep this ball rolling? And the library, the college, the school district, childcare, there's so many different elements that need to come together here. And I don't have any magic answers, obviously, on that one. But at the same time, I don't want to just, okay, we'll come back in a year and we're talking about this. Debbie, as you meet with your group, keep us informed. And let's use this as a forum to continue to drive that conversation. The Superintendent Bernal, I know, is working with the chamber to get, so she'll be scheduled here later this fall. I think some fairly new members of her school board are there now, and I think she'll have a better read on where they stand in terms of the bond. What's the strategy there? I don't want to emphasize that all the time, but I think it is a big part of it. What's going to be taking place at the Federal Street Plaza? How do programming possibilities avoid any problems we might have there? And I know the city. We've talked about the homeless issue there. The city has some strategies for working on that one. So it's up to us. It's up to we, not they.
Yep. Yeah, and I left my contact information in there. I really appreciate this time. I am having a little coffee connection with the new chamber director, and is it Lynn Cox? Lisa Cox?
Yes. Lynn Cox.
Lynn Cox.
Mhm.
And Darcy Long. So how we can talk about that and be definitely help our business community, because many of them have young people in their lives, that have young people that shop at their stores. So this is a definite we. I definitely need to follow up with the library. I hear so many good things. I will be reaching out, but please don't hesitate. We'd love to hear, even if it's like, hey, I can't volunteer, but I have this idea. That would be awesome.
Thank you, Debbie. And your contact information is in the chat?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right, everyone. Let's wrap it up for this week. Next week, please plan on joining us, same time, same place. Commissioner Roger Nichols, and our host will be Kristen Wilkins, Tourism Director with the Chamber. And Kristen's on the call right now. Roger, thank you for next week. Debbie, thank you for being here this week. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and keep up the good work.